I'd like to inform you that we've found the wreckage of the drones that carried out this attack. The navigation systems of some of these drones are well preserved and technically functional. A decryption of the memory contents of the navigation controllers of these drones, performed by specialists from Russian intelligence agencies, has irrefutably confirmed that the target of the attack was the complex of buildings housing the Russian president's residence in the Novgorod region.
While Ukraine and US have disputed Russia's account of the attempted strike, Ukraine has accused Russia of driving a wedge between Kiev and Washington after a weekend meeting between Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky.
And well, to discuss this scenario further, we're now being joined by Giorgio Cafiero from Washington, D.C. He is a professor at Georgetown University and CEO of Gulf State Analytics. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Now, the situation looks very tense, and this is at a moment when Trump had earlier said that he's very positive about these peace talks. What kind of implications do you think it would have now on the peace talks that Trump was so confident about?
Yeah, well, first of all, Happy New Year's, and
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me back on the program. I think the first thing to point out about this attack is that this plays out very emotionally in Russia, in Russian culture. As a consequence of Soviet history, New Year's is a very, very special holiday, even more so than Christmas. So there's a very emotional layer here that needs to be appreciated. But to get to your question, this is definitely going to undermine the hopes of some sort of a diplomatic push, hopes that some diplomatic momentum will be in play as we start 2026. I'm confident that Russia will respond very forcefully, and I'm sure Ukraine will respond to that. And it makes it more difficult for us to imagine this war winding down.
Absolutely, Mr. Cafiero. And while there's more to unpack there, but we have some breaking news coming in. Now, in the latest, what we have is Iran, which has ushered in the new year with violent protests that refuse to die down.
Now, of course, we talk about Russia again. Now, we have some breaking news from Russia, too. Russia has now claimed its air defense have downed 201 Ukrainian drones in 7 hours. That includes 21 over Moscow.
Right, and the other regions that were targeted include Belgorod, Bryansk, Rostov, among others. Now, in the latest, Russia has claimed that its air defense have downed 201 Ukrainian drones in 7 hours, including 21 over Moscow. Now, and the other regions which were targeted include Belgorod, Bryansk, Rostov, among others. Now, Mr. Cafiero, how should we look at the latest developments now that we've entered into 2026 and the war has again spilled into yet another year? Now, do you think the peace is still going to remain elusive in 2026? And if not, what is the price of that peace going to be like?
Well, unfortunately, this is not a great start to 2026 from the perspective of those who would like to see the conflict in Ukraine begin to wind down. I think it's really clear that both sides are continuing to fight, and obviously Ukraine is trying to do everything it can to really increase the cost that the Russians have to pay for continuing their war against Ukraine. And these drone attacks inside Russia, I'm afraid, are going to continue to be more and more common, as we can also say about Russia's attacks on vital infrastructure in Ukraine. While both sides claim that they're not targeting civilians, there is something to say, though, about sort of a war of narratives taking place. And I think bringing us back to this New Year's attack on the hotel and cafe on the Black Sea coast in Orly, it's quite clear that I think Russia is going to use this as an opportunity to depict the Ukrainian side as being guilty of waging terrorism, and mindful of the fact that this was a civilian target. And I think obviously that is going to be, an important message that Russia sends out as it's sort of trying to make its case that Ukraine is the country that is responsible for the diplomatic initiatives not going forward any further right now. And I think obviously Russia is definitely trying to capitalize on the fact that there wasn't any Western condemnation of this attack as well.
All right. Well, of course, also the other thing that comes to mind is Trump. Now, we did see him comment about he's going to try as much as he can, but he also said that if something does not go wrong, it depends on, how this goes. He was not very confident about it. But how long can Trump go on, and how much patience do you think Trump would have at this moment? Or he would just try to actually say that he has stopped 8 wars and somehow this one is just not happening?
Well, I have no doubt that Trump would very much like to be able to take credit for being a world leader who successfully brought this war, maybe not necessarily to an end, but to at least successfully freeze the conflict so that the killings come to a halt. At the same time, though, I think Trump does not want to be a president who is in power when he pushes for such an arrangement, and then as a result, we see Russian forces moving westward further into Ukraine. So he would, I think, like to, as I said, take credit for freezing the conflict basically along the lines that it's at right now. But I have to assume that Trump and those around him are nervous about a scenario in which much more of Ukraine would fall under Moscow's control. So I think the challenge for the Trump administration is to try to give both sides an incentive to agree to some sort of an arrangement in which the war gets frozen more or less along current lines. But at the same time, there are some, as your viewers are aware, there's some very sticky issues that still have to get worked out before the parties could get to that point. Issues pertaining to control over certain territories definitely being one of the most sticky issues right now.
Right, Mr. Kefir, those are some very valid points there, but of course we'll have to wait and see how the situation develops. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your valuable perspective with us.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right, now shifting our focus to another flashpoint. Now, Iran is ushered in the new year with violent protests that refuse to die down.
Right, and thousands of Iranians are out on the streets, marching against soaring inflation, water and power shortages. The fifth day of the protest turned out to be the deadliest.
On Thursday, clashes erupted between demonstrators and security forces in 2 separate parts of Iran. Well, in Lorestan province, 3 people have died in the standoff, with 17 others wounded. Local media said that clashes began after a group of rioters took advantage of the ongoing protests to allegedly attack the police.
Hours before, a clash took place in southwest Iran's Lorestan city between protesters and security forces. 2 civilians were killed, and local media also reported property damage in the area.
The first confirmed death was that of a member of Iran's security forces who was killed on Wednesday night. The deputy governor of Lorestan province said a 21-year-old member of the Basij from the city of Khodash was killed, and the Basij are a volunteer paramilitary force linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guards. This takes the death toll up to 6.
Now, protests have spread to over 17 out of the 31 provinces. The provinces of Jahar Mahal, Bakhtiari, Elam, Khuzestan, Khorasan, Razvi, and Lorestan are all witnessing fresh demonstrations. Sites such as Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, Karaj, and Fasa are also on the boil.
Now, on Wednesday, protesters also attacked a government building in southern Iran. Eyewitness videos released showed people trying to access a building in Fars province. Authorities confirmed that a portion of the provincial governor's office door and its glass were destroyed.
And another footage showed protesters clashing with the security forces in the western city of Hamadan. Earlier, Iran's prosecutor general had warned that any attempt to create insecurity would be met with a decisive response.
On New Year's Eve, authorities announced a holiday for banks, schools, and several other public institutions. The reason officials said is due to cold weather and the need to preserve energy.
Now, protests began on Sunday in Tehran's largest mobile phone market, where shopkeepers shuttered their businesses. The rallies have since built momentum, with students at 10 universities in the capital and in other cities joining in on Tuesday. The government has now appointed a new governor to the central bank after the former official resigned following a record currency fall against the US dollar. Now, inflation in Iran has surged past 42%, driven by collapsing
rial and sharply rising living costs. Now, as the rial weakens to record lows, prices are spiraling. Food costs are up 72% year-on-year, while health and medical items have risen 50%. Sanctions, political uncertainty, and fears of wider conflict are compounding pressure on households, shrinking purchasing power, and pushing the economy closer to the risk of hyperinflation. And all this has now led to the big question: how will the Pezeshkian government and the supreme leader ensure that Iranians get a stable economy?
And mourners have gathered at a makeshift memorial in the Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana after a fire ripped through a bar.
This was during a New Year's party which killed around 40 people and injured more than 100 others.
Now, the fire broke out in the early hours of New Year's Day as young revelers crowded inside the venue. Witnesses described scenes of chaos and panic.
We were yelling fire, fire, and then we thought it was a joke or that it wasn't necessarily serious. And then suddenly, a huge cloud of black smoke, we couldn't breathe anymore. And then maybe we had to get out, and everyone got out. But a crowd gathered, so we couldn't get out, so we tried to hide. Then, when I got back upstairs, I thought I was either going to die or I'd manage to get out. But the only way was through a window, but the windows were blocked, so I grabbed a table and tried to smash it against a window. I couldn't, and I thought, well, I'm going to die. But finally, I managed to kick the glass, it broke, and then we got out. We managed to get people out.
There's the small door where everyone was pushing, and so we all fell. We were piled on top of each other. Some people were burning, and some were dead next to us. If I'm here tonight, it's because I just want to thank the Lord for saving me, and I just want to ask Him to save my friends who are missing, because it's horrible, because I miss them.
Police, firefighters and rescue teams rushed to the popular Alpine resort, which is set to host a ski World Cup event later this month, and Swiss authorities announced that flags would be flown at half-mast across the country for 5 days.
Swiss President Guy Parmelin had described the incident as one of the worst tragedies in the country that has ever been experienced.
The events that took place in this public establishment last night constitute a disaster of unprecedented and horrifying scale. Many lives, mostly young people, have been lost.
Hospitals in the canton of Valais became overwhelmed. Many of the injured were transferred to medical facilities across Switzerland, including more than 30 patients taken to specialized burn units in Zurich and Lausanne, and 6 sent to Geneva.
Neighboring countries offered assistance. The European Union said it is in contact with Swiss authorities about providing medical support, while French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed that some of the injured are being treated in France.
Swiss officials warned that identifying the victims could take several days or even weeks. Given Crans-Montana's popularity with international tourists, police said that the victims include multiple nationalities.
Now, Italy's foreign minister has said around 15 Italian citizens were injured and a similar number remain missing. 3 Italians were transferred by helicopter to specialist burns units in the Niguarda hospital in Milan.
French authorities confirmed that at least 2 French nationals were among the injured. The Bar Lake concentration has a capacity of 300 people, with space for another 40 on its terrace.
Authorities say the cause of the fire is still under investigation, but they have ruled out terrorism, adding that initial findings show the fire triggered an explosion, not the other way around.
And an inferno engulfed a historic church in Amsterdam as the Netherlands endured an unsettling New Year's Eve.
Well, 2 are dead from the fireworks, and unprecedented violence has erupted against police. The blaze broke out in the early hours of New Year's Day, engulfing a tower of Vondel Church found inside the Dutch capital's famous Vondelkerk.
Now, Dutch firefighters battled to put out the blaze. According to the authorities, the 50-meter high tower collapsed and its roof was badly damaged due to the fire.
Now, local media reported authorities evacuating dozens of neighboring homes due to a shower of burning debris. The head of the Dutch police union reported an unprecedented amount of violence against police and emergency services over New Year's Eve. Now, as she said, she herself was pelted thrice by fireworks and other explosives in Amsterdam. 2 people were killed in the fireworks accidents and 3 were seriously injured. And while shifting our focus to New York in New Year's, Zohran Mamdani has promised a new era for New York City after being sworn in.
And this while outlining his vision for change as he begins his term as mayor. While thousands of people thronged City Hall for the ceremony, braving freezing temperatures, New York's first Muslim mayor vowed to pursue an aggressive agenda aimed at making largest city of US more affordable for working people, emphasizing universal childcare, affordable rents and free bus service. He said that his administration will be accountable to all New Yorkers, not wealthy donors, as he pledged to govern according to democratic socialist principles.
New Yorkers. And it will be New Yorkers who reform a long broken property tax system. New Yorkers who will create a new Department of Community Safety that will tackle the mental health crisis and let the police focus on the job they signed up to do. New Yorkers who will take on the bad landlords who mistreat their tenants and free small business owners from the shackles of bloated bureaucracy. And I am proud to be one of those New Yorkers.
He further stated that the nation will be watching closely to see whether his left-leaning approach to governing can succeed in addressing the challenges facing Americans, adding that they will set an example to the world.
I cannot blame anyone who has come to question the role of government, whose faith in democracy has been eroded by decades of apathy. We will restore that trust by walking a different path. One where government is no longer solely the final recourse for those struggling. One where excellence is no longer the exception.
Born in Uganda to a family of Indian origin, the 34-year-old democratic socialist moved to New York at the age of 7. He campaigned heavily on the cost of living issues and was sharply critical of Republican President Donald Trump, rising rapidly from relative anonymity just a year ago. Now, during the mayoral race, Trump threatened to withhold federal funding from the city if Mamdani won and suggested deploying National Guard troops. However, the president later surprised both supporters and critics by inviting Mamdani to the White House for what became a cordial meeting in November last year.
And for more in this, our correspondent Susan Tharani has sent us this report from New York.
Today, January 1st, marks the inauguration of New York City's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, with a public celebration outside, followed by a formal ceremony just blocks away at City Hall. Supporters gathered to mark what Mamdani is calling a new chapter for the city, built around affordability, housing, and economic fairness. Mamdani's agenda includes freezing rents, expanding public housing, and raising taxes on the wealthy to fund social services. But delivering on those promises will depend heavy on legislative support. He will need the cooperation of the city council as well as state lawmakers in Albany to move much of his platform forward. Critics argue his plans are too costly and too far left for a city facing budget pressures and public safety concerns. Supporters say his election reflects deep frustration with the status quo. As Mamdani now takes office, the focus shifts from celebrations to governing and whether campaign promises can survive the realities of City Hall. Susan Tahrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
But don't go anywhere. Lots lined up on the other side. Another Hindu man has now come under attack in Bangladesh on Wednesday night. The attack took place in Shariatpur district of Bangladesh, and according to reports, assailants beat the Hindu man and set him on fire. We'll get you all the details on that story on the other side. Keep watching WION World is One.
where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond What Is One, and this is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar, and my colleague, Disha Bisla. Let's begin with the headlines.
Russia claims its air defense have downed 201 Ukrainian drones in 7 hours, including 21 over Moscow. Other regions targeted include Belgorod, Bryansk and Rostov.
Russia says it has handed U.S. evidence that Ukraine's alleged drone attack carried out earlier this week targeted President Vladimir Putin's residence.
Mourners hold vigil at Swiss ski resort of Crans-Montana a day after a fire ripped through a crowded bar, killing around 40 and injuring 115 others.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says he is open to cooperation with the U.S. on drug trafficking and other issues, declines to comment on attack on Venezuelan dock announced by President Donald Trump.
Iranian authorities arrest 30 suspects of public order offences. This is after days of deadly protest over the cost of living.
U.S. calls on China to exercise restraint to avoid actions that raise tensions following a series of war games around Taiwan, simulating a blockade of the island.
Weather agencies in India forecast cold wave conditions in Delhi between 2nd and 5th of January as chilly weather continues in the national capital. Air quality firms up in a very poor category.
Usman Khawaja has announced his retirement from international cricket. The 39-year-old says the 5th Ashes Test in Sydney will be his last and calls out racism he experienced throughout his career.
Well, it is officially election year in Bangladesh. The Jamaat-e-Islami is returning to the political battlefield after 17 long years.
And of course, with more than a decade of being banned, that is, Jamaat-e-Islami's president has publicly stated that the party is interested in being a part of a multi-party or unity government. Shafiqur Rahman, the party president, has said that they have already held several rounds of talks with leaders from other parties.
Because we want to see a stable nation, at least for 5 years. If the parties come together, that we'll run the government together. But we have given 3 conditions to every party.
What are the conditions that Jamaat-e-Islami has listed out? Now, number 1, the ailing party should be corruption-free. Number 2, social justice for all and no political interference. Number 3, fulfilling people's aspirations and supporting reforms.
And these are comments, and the comments that came after the Jamaat-e-Islami party has historically always advocated for Sharia law in Bangladesh. And more recently, the party says it has attempted to garner support over and above its conservative base. Last time the party was in power was between 2001 and 2006 as a coalition partner with the Bangladesh Nationalist Party.
Now, it was former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina who had banned Jamaat-e-Islami for more than a decade. Following Hasina's ouster in August 2024, the largest Muslim party of Bangladesh appealed the Supreme Court to review the 2013 ban order. In June 2025, the country's top court reinstated the party's resignation. More than 6 months later, pre-election polls predict Jamaat-e-Islami to emerge as the second largest party after the BNP. Voting is scheduled to be held on February 12th.
Now, another Hindu man has come under attack in Bangladesh.
The attack took place on Wednesday night. The victim is a businessman who goes by the name of Konkan Das. The attack took place in Shariatpur, district of Bangladesh. And according to reports, Das was on his way home from work when assailants beat him up, They even poured petrol and set him on fire. Das jumped into a pond nearby to save himself. He suffers several injuries and burns. Authorities have moved the victim to Dhaka for advanced medical treatment.
Now, Seema Das, wife of the injured businessman, has told local media that they have no enemies in the area and failed to understand the motive of this attack. She also said that Das recognized two of the assailants and claims that that is the reason they tried to pour gasoline on him and killed him.
Local police says that they reached the scene after receiving news of a terrorist attack on a businessman. Authorities have so far nabbed two attackers, who they have identified as Rabi and Sohag. Officials are also on the lookout for others involved in this targeted attack.
And this is the fourth attack on a Hindu man in Bangladesh in just over 2 weeks. The country reels from a political crisis and an intense battle for the upcoming elections, and this attack comes right in between all of this.
And a commission appointed by Nepal's interim government is set to summon ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli for clarification over alleged excessive use of force during the Gen Z protests in September last year.
Now, the violent protests that rocked Nepal on 8th and 9th of September last year resulted in the death of at least 77 people nationwide. And according to reports, at least 19 youth who were demonstrating against the Oli government were killed in the police firing in Kathmandu. The widespread unrest resulted in the fall of the government and Oli's ouster. Human Rights Watch and other bodies have alleged security forces used disproportionately and unlawful force, including firing live ammunition at protesters. The three-member panel was constituted through a cabinet decision on September 21st. The commission, led by Gauri Bhadrakarki, aims to submit its final report by January 21st.
Well, speaking to the media, she told reporters that preparations are underway to seek clarification from CP and UML chairperson and former Prime Minister Oli after the process of recording the statement of then Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak is completed.
KP Sharma Oli has publicly stated he won't appear before the inquiry commission, questioning its legitimacy and impartiality.
In a major development in the Sabrimala alleged gold theft row, the special investigation team has found that more gold is missing from the temple than the initial findings.
And the SIT has told the court that the matter is not limited to 2 items and that the gold is missing from more artifacts in the temple. The team mentioned this in an application seeking one-day custody of 3 accused, including Unnikrishnan Potti.
According to the application, gold was separated using a chemical mixture at a firm in Chennai and is currently in the possession of Karnataka-based jeweler Govardhan Rodam. SIT further sought technical assistance of the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Thiruvananthapuram to ascertain the exact quantity of gold plating material on various artifacts of the temple, and the scientists will collect samples from the gold-covered copper plates.
The Sabrimala gold controversy revolves around allegations of irregularities in the gold plating of the temple structures. The issue came into focus in October last year after the Kerala High Court ordered a comprehensive investigation. And since then, the Kerala government has faced sharp backlash, with opposition parties, Congress and the BJP intensifying their criticism. The state government, however, has hit back, citing an alleged meeting between the prime accused Unnikrishnan and Congress leader Sonia Gandhi in Delhi. India is set to witness a historic milestone. The country's first bullet train is expected to begin operations on 15th of August 2027.
Well, Union Minister of Railways Ashwini Vaishnav has announced that the first high-speed train will operate on the Surat-Bilimora stretch. The National High-Speed Rail Corporation Limited is currently executing the country's first bullet train corridor between Mumbai and Ahmedabad.
The 508-kilometer-long Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project will have 12 stations, namely Mumbai, Thane, Virar, Boisar, Vapi, Bilimora, Surat, Bharuch, Vadodara, Anand, Ahmedabad and Sabarmati.
The groundbreaking project promises to revolutionize intercity travel, cutting journey times significantly while introducing world-class high-speed rail standards in India.
Now, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project is being built at a total estimated cost of over 1 lakh crore rupees, with Japan International Cooperation Agency funding 81% of the cost.
Now, according to Vaishnav, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail corridor will be inaugurated in a phased manner. Surat to Bilimora stretch will be the first section to open, followed by Vapi-Surat. After then, the Vapi-Ahmedabad section will be opened, after which services will begin on the Thane-Ahmedabad stretch. The entire Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail corridor will be operational in the final phase. This phase launch will ensure smooth operations while gradually connecting key cities including Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Bharuch, Surat, Vapi, Thane and Mumbai. Tens of thousands rallied on Istanbul's Galata Bridge in solidarity with the Palestinians.
And they waved Turkish and Palestinian flags at the event, demanding justice for Gaza. Now here's a report. Take a look. In 2025, equity investors enjoyed blockbuster returns across markets.
Among other asset classes, U.S. Treasuries posted their strongest year of return since 2020. On the bright side, investor sentiment was primed by Federal Reserve rate cuts and the vast economic potential of artificial intelligence. But despite the gains, it was not a smooth ride all through. Geopolitical tensions and President Trump's trade brinksmanship and wild policies whipsawed some assets and boosted others. The uncertainty trend is forecast to extend to 2026, with widespread predictions for extreme wild swings.
And while shifting focus to broader markets beyond stocks, precious metals were the real winners. Gold surged over 60%, however, silver easily outpaced bullion with over 130% surge. Both marked their best year since the 1979 oil crisis. Crude oil was the biggest loser in 2025. Benchmark Brent crude fell over 20% to post its deepest annual loss since 2020 on the surplus concerns. The dollar fell nearly 10% to post its worst year since 2017. Bitcoin closed out the year with over 11% losses after hitting an all-time high of over $126,000.
Now, with major assets covered, let's shift our focus to the Asia-Pacific stock markets. Japan's Nikkei was the biggest gainer in Asia with a 25% surge, closely followed by Chinese stocks. Shanghai Index gained over 23%, while Indian benchmarks showed more subdued gains. Sensex shattered records with a 7.6% gain to mark a 10-year winning streak. The decades-long rally from 26,600 in 2016 to over 85,000 showcases Indian stocks' resilience. The Aussie Index also showed measured gains in 2025.
And in the Americas, Wall Street benchmarks powered through a roller coaster year. The S&P 500 advanced over 15%, after more than 20% gains in the previous 2 years. Nasdaq also posted double-digit gains for 3 consecutive years. Both benchmarks notched their longest winning streaks since 2021. Canadian stocks set record for records in jaw-dropping year. The Canadian index soared more than 40% from April lows, ending the year with over 26% advance. The index marked its best year since 2009, when the rebound from the financial crisis led to a 31% gain. Brazil's Bovespa was the best performer in Americas with nearly 36% returns.
Now, looking across the Atlantic, European stocks soared despite political and economic turmoil across the region. European stocks closed 2025 near all-time highs, marking their strongest annual performance since 2021. The UK and German benchmarks surged over 20%. The French CAC gained nearly 12% despite a budget crisis. The best performance, though, came from the South African benchmark with over 36% returns. In other news, Chinese travelers are moving away from traditional sightseeing and embracing experiential holidays.
Well, online travel platform Fliggy reports that searches for niche trips, including aurora viewing and pet-inclusive packages, have surged by 200% compared to last year. Interest in New Year's Eve activities like fireworks, light shows, and performances has also jumped 58%. Now, the shift reflects a growing demand for personalized, memorable experiences over conventional mass market tourism.
Pet-inclusive travel is driving a new market segment in China. Boutique agencies report tripled inquiries for the New Year holiday, catering to urban millennials who treat their dogs as fur kits. Now, these tailored tours take pets to open landscapes. At the same time, winter sports and ski resorts are attracting young travelers, making seasonal tourism a key growth area.
Now, the rise in tailored and experiential travel is a bright spot for China's economy. While broader consumer spending remains soft due to a prolonged property slump and challenging job market, households are increasingly directing disposable income towards dining, tourism, and leisure activities. Industry experts project that China's travel market, including pet-friendly and winter tourism, could surpass roughly $115 billion this year.
Одного пояса, одного пути.
And according to a report by The Information, OpenAI has spent the past 2 months unifying several engineering product and research teams.
And this is in a bid to overhaul its audio models from the ground up. The work is designed to support a new generation of audio-first hardware, with a personal device expected to debut soon.
Now, the move comes as audio rapidly emerges as a core interface for consumer technology. Smart speakers have already made voice assistants common in more than a third of U.S. households, while Meta has recently added advanced directional listening features to its Ray-Ban smart glasses, using multiple microphones to help users hear conversations in noisy environments.
Google has also begun testing audio overviews, which turns search results into spoken conversational summaries.
And Tesla is integrating large language models, including Grok, into its vehicles to enable natural voice control for navigation, climate, and other functions.
OpenAI's next-generation audio model, expected in early 2026, is set to sound more natural, handle interruptions like a real conversation, and even speak at the same time as the user. The company is also reportedly exploring a family of devices, possibly including smart glasses or screenless speakers, designed to feel more like companions than tools. The hardware effort is being shaped by former Apple design chief Johnny Ive, who joined OpenAI after its $6.5 billion acquisition of his firm I.O. in May. And shifting our focus to football now, Gabon's government has suspended the national team, sacked coach Thierry Oyuma and banned striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And this is after their exit from the Africa Cup of Nations.
Well, Gabon's acting sports minister, Mambuela, has announced the suspension of the national team on television on Wednesday after a 3-2 loss to the Ivory Coast. The sports minister called Panthers' performance disgraceful at the Africa Cup of Nations. Gabon finished bottom of their group in Morocco. Gabon were one of 3 teams, along with Botswana and Equatorial Guinea, to be eliminated from AFCON without taking a single point. The government has also banned veteran defender Manga.
Neither Aubameyang nor Manga played the Gabon's last match of the tournament, their defeat to Ivory Coast on 31st December. Former Arsenal and Chelsea striker Aubameyang did not play in the final group game after returning to Marseille for treatment in a thigh injury. Well, the former African Footballer of the Year responded to social media, saying on X, and I'm quoting here, "I think the team's problems are much deeper than the individual I am."
Well, the 36-year-old has likely played his last game for Gabon in their defeat by Mozambique. It was also likely the case with 37-year-old Manga. Both the players had each captained the national side during the first 2 matches at the Nations Cup. Their coach, Mayoma, was in charge for a little over 2 years. It used to be common for African governments to disband national teams after disappointing results, but it has happened less often since FIFA became stricter about government interference. And in a historic shift for the animation industry, Disney's Zootopia 2 has officially become the highest-grossing film in the history of Walt Disney Animation Studios.
And as of January 1st, 2026, the mammalian sequel has reached a staggering $1.46 billion at the global box office, narrowly overtaking the $1.45 billion record held by Frozen 2 since 2019.
Well, the film's meteoric rise was fueled by a dominant performance during the 2025 holiday season after a record-breaking Thanksgiving debut. The adventure starring Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman across the $1 billion threshold in just 17 days, which is the fastest in any PG-rated or animated film that has ever reached the milestone. While the original Frozen films relied heavily on domestic and European markets, Zootopia 2 found its greatest strength in China. The sequel has grossed over $500 million in Chinese theaters alone, capitalizing on the massive popularity of Zootopia Land that opened at Shanghai Disneyland in late 2023.
While Zootopia 2 is now the king of Walt Disney Animation Studios, it still trails Pixar's Inside Out 2, $1.69 billion, and the 2019 photorealist remake of The Lion King at $1.66 million for the title of the highest-grossing animated film distributed by Disney overall. Furthermore, 2025 has proven to be a landmark year for the medium. Zootopia 2 currently sits at the second highest-grossing film of the year globally, trailing only the Chinese animated epic Ninja 2, which has amassed over $2.2 billion. With Frozen 3 slated for 2027, the battle for the house that Mouse built is far from over. For now, however, the crown belongs to the city of Zootopia.
Forever.
There's a snake! Stop in the name of the law!
I'm the bad guys. I have to set things right. And when I do, my
And with that, we call a wrap to World DNA for today. And before we go, here's a look at all the climate stories that have been making headlines across the world. Thanks for staying with us. Keep watching Beyond World this month.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.